This is Ian from Lean Media. I've been a publisher for more than 10 years, and one question I see a lot from new authors, self-published authors, is how do you get your book into the Library of Congress? There's basically two ways most self-published authors will do that. I'm going to get into it in this video. If it helps out, please take a moment to like it and follow me, and let's get started. So here we have a typical question relating to getting your book into the Library of Congress. This is from a self-published author, apparently. They'd like to publish their book, place copies in various libraries, and distribute it to some family members. Okay. And then I would like it to meet Library of Congress standards, which I believe means having it edited, published, copyrighted, and LCCN and ISBN numbers assigned. Okay, so let's talk about what this person is seeking in terms of the Library of Congress part. There's a few reasons why people typically want to get a book in the Library of Congress. One reason is it kind of makes it permanent. The Library of Congress is this collection of wonderful creative works, including books, including photographs, including film, and they're kind of like the shepherds of our kind of literary history. And if you get it in there, long after we're gone, the book will still be part of that record. Doesn't mean that it's going to be famous or anything like that, but it just means it'll be preserved for a long time, maybe longer than it would otherwise exist or be noticed. The second reason why people do this, why new publishers do this, is because they think that it gives them some legitimacy. If you open up the book and you see on the copyright page, you'll see like a Library of Congress control number or something like that. That gains it some legitimacy. And then the other part of it is the copyright part of it, and that actually gives you legal protections. That is, if you find someone's copying your work or someone has taken your work and is using it to create another work, a derivative work, without your permission, you can actually take them to court. I'm not going to get into that part of dealing with copyright, but I'm just going to tell you kind of the nuts and bolts of getting it into the Library of Congress using two different methods. The first method is actually using something called the Cataloging in Publication program on the Library of Congress website. I've done this a number of times, and specifically when you come to this particular page, actually let's go to this one, you'll kind of navigate through things, and then you'll see something called the Pre-Assigned Control Number program. So basically this is a system that the Library of Congress uses to regulate the books that are being kind of coming over the transom and into the system. And basically you use this registration form. It's an online registration form. You have to give them some information, and then they'll assign you a number, and then that number you can use it in your book. I'm going to show you an example of that in a second, and also just to kind of get you going on the process of getting it officially registered for the pre-assigned control number program. Let's actually take a look at one of my books where we did this a couple years back. So this is the proof copy of Social Security in 30 Minutes by author Emily Pogue. It was actually a 2-volume edition. And if you go down to the, not just the title page, but the copyright page, let's zoom in a little bit. You'll see at the top here, it says Library of Congress control number. So this is a number that they gave me in 2019. I put it in there. And then you'll also see below it, you'll see the publisher's cataloging and publication data. Now, the Library of Congress actually has a service where they can generate a block like this. However, it takes a really long time. So I hired a professional cataloger to create this particular one. Note that it doesn't have the pre-assigned control number there. That is up there. But I like to have this in my books. It shows that I'm a serious independent publisher. I've been doing this for more than 10 years. And I went through the trouble of getting this type of number, registering with the Library of Congress, and I followed the rules, and that's something people will see. This PCIP block or CIP block, that's very useful, not just for the Library of Congress when they get the copy of the book, because this information, this classification, that will help them file it. It's also really useful for librarians. So there's another impact of using those types of services when you're registering your book with the Library of Congress. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is via the Copyright Office, which also the Library of Congress is involved in that too. So let's take a look at that. So the U.S. Copyright Office, if you go to copyright.gov, you can learn more about the different services that they offer. But the ones that we're really interested in are registering your works. So you'd click on that, and you'd follow these particular steps to register the works. there's a cost associated with it, and also, and actually, this is where I file my copyrights. Log into the Electronic Copyright Office ECO registration system. So you have to get a login number, and then you follow their process for copyrighting your book. And there's a couple things to note about this when you're registering for copyright. The first thing to note is that there are costs associated with this. Unlike the pre-assigned control number program that the Library of Congress has, which is free, this particular service, registering your book for copyright, there are costs associated with that. So for a single author, same claimant, one work not for hire, $45, standard application $65, and if you do it on paper, it's even more. However, even more important than this part of it, in my opinion, are the rules and processes for declaring your work for copyright. Copyright is a system that is designed for the legal system, and as such, there's a lot of legalese in the copyright process and the declarations and the claims you're making. A lot of time when people are publishing books, they may not be so clear on things like, oh, wait a second, that stock photograph that I have, can I include that in the copyright? How should I disclaim that? So and what I found actually when I first started doing this more than 10 years ago is that the Copyright Office would bounce stuff back to me and say, you need to address this point, and this point, because I didn't disclaim it properly. So what I basically did actually is I ended up creating this template for the Copyright Office where I can just kind of fill in the information about the title and the stuff that's included in the in my claim and the stuff that's not included in the claim, because they really want to get that right. Because you cannot claim, let's say that you're writing a book and you're maybe you're using stock photography, or you're using even a public domain image, or you're quoting something from another book. You can't claim that as your own material. You can't claim copyright on that. So you have to be really careful how you handle that, and you have to follow their rules. So I'd say if you're getting ready to copyright a book, just be ready for maybe some rejection, because they'll look at your application. If you don't follow their rules, it'll just stop the process. And I've also found that it's just not, the government websites, they're not very user friendly. It's kind of hard to deal with, actually. So I don't want to discourage people that are just getting started with official copyright filings, but I want to be realistic about it too. It's not a walk in the park, and just be ready for that particular issue if you're dealing with copyright. However, once your book does pass their copyright, it does get copyrighted, they'll ask you to send a copy to the Library of Congress. That's how it works. Same thing with the pre-assigned control number program. You have to send either one or two copies in. I can't remember which, when you finish that process. And by the way, the pre-assigned control number program, that is also very particular about how things are set up. For instance, take a look at the title page. I have to say where it's published, Newton, Massachusetts. That was a requirement by the Library of Congress when I registered for a control number. And then the other thing that they ask for is an ISBN number. So I do have my own ISBN numbers. These are not, granted to me by Amazon or anybody else. So these are all these. There's all these little parts and pieces that go into creating a professionally published book that meets professional standards, including the standards that are demanded by the Library of Congress for either their copyright program or for the pre-assigned control number program. So just be aware of them. It's a little bit confusing for sure. I've just given you a bit of a data dump, but it's possible to do it. I've been doing it for 10 years. I learned a couple lessons at first, like I just explained with the Copyright Office. But the result is when my books are published, they have a pre-assigned control number. They have a CIP block. They have real ISBNs, and they're copyrighted. I do things the right way when I'm a publisher, and you can do it too, for sure. I hope this video helped out, and also, of course, if for more information, you should go to the source, and that would be the U.S. Copyright Office, copyright.gov, or the Library of Congress website, which is loc.gov/publish. I hope this video helped you out. If it did, please take a moment to like it and follow me. And also, if you go to leanmedia.org, that's my official website, there's lots more information about publishing, about doing e-commerce. All this information is for free. Just go to blog or video and you can see more information. I'll see you next time.